Hey everyone, and welcome back. So, today we're continuing to read the lawsuit against Google. And this time we're going through the part of the document that concerns David Gudeman, who is the second named plaintiff in the lawsuit. So, without any further ado, let's get to it. Enjoy! David Gudeman. Gudeman begins work at Google. Goodman first began working for Google in or around October 8, 2013, until his termination on or around December 5, 2016. Goodman was a conservative, Caucasian, and a male at Google, and was discriminated against and harassed as a result. Goodman was ultimately terminated for these protected characteristics. The Derail Document. On or about August 20th, 2015, Kim Burchett, an L7 SWE manager, drafted and published a document on a Google employees-only website entitled Derailing. Yeah, we all know where this is heading, right? Not anywhere good, I'll tell you that. This document discussed how individuals might attempt to silence someone's opinion or distract from someone's point of view. The document was aimed at Caucasian males and conflated marginalization with white male privilege. Yeah, I never saw that coming. I'm sure you guys didn't see that coming either, right? The document essentially claimed through examples that any response but agreement to a statement about bias, prejudice, or privilege was derailment. Yeah, that makes sense. Agree, or you're a terrible human being. Reductio ad absurdum. The thesis of this document is that on this one particular set of topics, the left-wing political frame of systematic bias must always dominate, and the receiver must accept that frame and its associated worldview in their response. How did they even think this would be legal? Goodman read this article and disagreed with its premise, as did many other employees. Goodman left a comment stating his belief that men need to understand that Caucasian males are the victims of a racist, sexist political movement and is not their fault. Goodman went on to state that the point of this document is to disallow any defense at all that a man might take when a woman complains about bias. There is no defense. The woman is always right. The man has no alternative but to submit to her superior moral position. We have a word for that attitude. It's called sexism. So if a tree falls in the woods and there's no SJW around to complain about it, will she still make a sound? Wow, tough crowd. After Goodman's comment, others responded stating that he was misinterpreting the document, to which Goodman responded, well, if that's the case, then you could be clearer, because all I'm getting from this document is that when anyone claims bias, there is no possible defense, not even the defense that the bias did not exist. He then provided a helpful suggestion to assuage any similar concerns other Caucasian men might have and suggested maybe a section on what a man should do when a woman accuses him of bias in order to protect himself from a system that is highly biased against him. Goodman's comment were not well received by other supposedly open-minded Googlers. Let me guess, men can't be victims, now shut up. Goodman even further stated in another comment, I started out intending to change minds by explaining logically and rationally what is offensive about this document. In response, I was treated dismissively. Goodman compared this document to that which slave owners would have written for their slaves to help them understand how to interact with their masters in order to point out prejudices involved with the document. Burchett, instead of applying the constructive criticism and potentially helping other employees who felt similarly discriminated against like Goodman did, stated that she was resolving this comment, also escalating to management. Ironically, other Google employees began to derail Goodman's point of view. Under the guise of advocating for an open dialogue, Burchett merely reported Googlers that disagreed with the thesis of her document as Goodman did to Google management as ungoogly. Ungoogly? Are you serious? Unfucking believable is what it is. This further exemplifies the one-sided and flawed mindset of Google that anyone that disagrees with you is wrong and hateful. Google punished Gudeman for his views on racism and discrimination. After being reported to Google, Google HR spoke with Gudeman in or around September 2015 regarding his posts. Google HR discussed Gudeman's viewpoints on race and/or gender equality and his political viewpoints. Google HR chastised him for attempting to stand up for Caucasian males and his conservative views. At the end of the HR meeting, Gudeman was issued a verbal warning: change your political views or get fired. Gudeman complained to his colleagues about the lack of fairness that conservatives receive at Google and the leeway Google provides for liberals to express their thoughts and opinions without repercussions. After the 2016 presidential election, many employees at Google began to panic, having expected a different outcome fully in line with their political views. Oh my God, the world didn't do what I want. Why didn't the world do what I want? On November 10th, 2016, in response to many Google employees posting on different Google-wide forums regarding their fears about the new administration, Goodman wrote that anyone who believes that President Trump will be out to get minorities, women, or gays has absorbed a lot of serious lies from their echo chamber. And the echo chamber is entirely one-sided. You can't watch TV or go to movies without being constantly confronted with a leftist worldview. Leftists can go their whole lives never being exposed to the conservative worldview except in shows written by people hostile to it. Goodman also stated in response to another Google employee that if you truly think that Trump is anything like a Nazi or ISIS or want to hurt gays, women, or the disabled, then you are so badly out of touch it borders on delusional. Yep, it's called Trump derangement syndrome. If you don't truly believe those things but are saying them anyway, then shame on you for trying to stir up fear and hatred. Yeah, what a controversial thing to say, huh? Of course Google had to terminate him, and that brings us to the next chapter. Google terminates Goodman. On November 9th, 2016, a few days after President Trump was elected president, Sarmad Gilani, a Google employee, posted the following message on a Dory thread, an internal forum where Google employees can ask questions that other Google employees can respond to. As someone already targeted by the FBI, including at work, for being a Muslim, I'm worried for my personal safety and liberty. Will Google take a public stand to defend minorities and use its influence, or just issue the usual politically nuanced statements about our values? How about if corporations stay out of fucking politics? How about that? Goodman responded skeptically to Gilani's claim that he was targeted solely due to his religion by asking, in the administration of the most pro-Muslim president in history, you were targeted just for being a Muslim? Why didn't you file a civil rights suit? The Justice Department would take your side if it really happened. Other Google employees immediately misinterpreted Goodman's post and responded by stating, if it really happened? Come on, David, let's give our co-workers the benefit of the doubt and not suggest they're lying. Pics or it didn't happen isn't a very constructive comment here. Reminds me of that why didn't you report sexual harassment to the police argument, PFFF. Well, that reminds me too, why didn't you? Goodman attempted to explain that he was not suggesting that Gilani was lying and affirmatively stated that he would not suggest Gilani was lying without specific knowledge of the case. Goodman further stated that at the suggestion of another Googler, he searched Gilani's story of being profiled and found zero evidence for the claim that Gilani was being targeted just for being a Muslim. Goodman posed more questions about the FBI's motive for looking into Gilani, such as the fact that Gilani had recently visited Pakistan and that the FBI could have possibly found something interesting about Gilani's trip or the region that he visited. In response to Goodman's legitimate questions, a fellow Google employee became hostile and stated that she had to escalate this thread, meaning that she reported it to Google HR. And of course, this lovely young lady who reported him has rainbow-colored hair. Go figure. Goodman had another conversation with another Google employee on November 10th, 2016, where he complained about being a conservative and a Trump supporter. Goodman pointed out that Trump supporters are a hated and despised minority at Google. Googlers feel comfortable slandering them in a public forum and assume that there will be no consequences. Goodman's comment was met with anger and accusations of him gaslighting instead of having genuine concerns. The fuck does he mean gaslighting? It is a genuine concern, you asshole! On or around December 5th, 2016, Google HR reached out to Goodman to discuss his comments, including those surrounding Jelani's post. Google HR stated that Goodman had accused Jelani of terrorism based on Jelani's religion, and this was unacceptable. That's not what he did, though. As a result of Goodman's accusations, Google stated that he was being terminated. Hasta la vista, baby. Goodman attempted to simply question the logic behind a coworker's story of victimization on the basis of his race and religion, but because of his political affiliations, Goodman was retaliated against and fired. Google employees were not allowed to question the diversity narrative of the company, even to the point of questioning politically charged factual assertions by fellow employees to prove their own political agendas. Then we have a couple of screenshots of some messages back and forth, which basically ends with, "I'm transsexual, checkmate!" And in case this tweet or whatever it is not large enough to see on the screen, his avatar actually says Black Lives Matter. You're very surprised, right? These interactions showed that the culture at Google was severe enough that employees such as Goodman were bullied into silence and required to tolerate harassment without pushing back. Yet Google's management refused to consider their concerns to be valid or even worthy of investigation. And that's the end of David Goodman's story concerning this lawsuit. It's a little bit shorter than the James Damore part from the previous video. But yeah, this guy certainly had the progressive hammer come down on his head as well. Like a ton of bricks, baby. Can you imagine having the world's most powerful company as your enemy? I wonder if these guys are even allowed to Google search or have a Gmail. Maybe Google has banned them from everything. Either way, I hope he's not communicating with his lawyer through Gmail, because Google might just eavesdrop a little there, huh? You know, track him slightly more than they do every other person on the face of this planet. Do you remember how in 80s movies, it's always a mad corporation being the bad guy, right? Well, I never actually thought it would happen in reality. Speaking of which, why don't I have a fucking flying car yet? Anyway, the next section of the lawsuit is potential class members and then the actual allegations and so forth. So again, I'll ask you to leave your comments below and tell me if you want me to continue reading this document or not. And as always, thanks for watching and see you next time. God, that hurt my neck.